Hello there, commanders, and welcome to another Total War Arena news update. Although I don't really know if that qualifies as news, but it is definitely something new for you. Most of you, anyway. So, as you can see in the title, it is going to be a Chinese tech tree preview. So first, before we get into it, a quick disclaimer. That is from a very early preview build. So changes are expected to be made. Actually, in the newest version, the changes have already been made to this tech tree. So this is not going to be accurate, but we are still going to get pretty close. Like, they're not going to change that much compared to what we already have here. So without further ado, let's start with the first branch, the most basic one that we're going to see, and that is the sword infantry. Starts from tier 1, goes all the way to tier 10, so we have peasant rabble at the tier 1, conscript infantry at tier 2, sword militia at tier 3, and ooh, it goes up and down. We're gonna get into that later. The yellow turbans at tier 4, sword buku tier 5, mercenary swordsman tier 6, sword guard tier 7, rapid tiger swords tier 8, Wu assault infantry tier 9, and finally white feathers at tier 10. So pretty standard stuff. I don't really know what to expect from this sword branch. I mean, doesn't look like anything special, to be honest. So yeah, it's just going to be a basic sword, probably like medium swords. Like, so Romans are very heavy, barbarians are light. That is going to probably fall somewhere in the middle. Which, well, it's something that we don't really have in the game yet, because, well, we have Carthage, but Carthage is also like a mix between medium and light infantry. So yeah, we will see. We'll basically see. Now let's go up and see what's up here. G infantry. And G infantry are going to be pike type units, as you can see by their unit icons, because that's how pike units look in the Greek tech tree. So Jibuku tier 5, Tuntian colonists tier 5. Did I say tier 5? That's tier 4. That's tier 5. G mercenaries tier 6, G warriors tier 7, G guard tier 8, feathered forest tier 9, and palace guard tier 10. So, well, we'll see how they differ from the pike infantry that Greece has. For now, well, it will be hard to predict. I mean, G has a hook, so maybe like a higher strike damage. You also have phalanx thrust, so I expect some G thrust ability. But we will see. Let me guys know in the comments below. And ooh, what is this? Something leads down there, but first, let's go into glaive infantry. So glaive infantry is going to be an entirely new unit type in the game. You remember Folksmen? I mean, they're the most similar to Folksmen, right? And Folksmen's gimmick is that they ignore shield values. So shield defense and shield armor just doesn't exist when it comes to Folkses. Similar gimmick is, for example, for dogs, where they ignore phalanx, ignore strikes, at least to the last patch. Now they don't ignore strikes anymore, with doggos. And they also ignore deployables like stakes and caltrops. So we'll see if glaives will have any gimmick at all, or if they're just going to have a different balance between stats. Because they're similar to Naginatas, right, that we know from Shogun 2. And original Shogun, I guess. But in Shogun 2, right, Naginatas were like hybrid between spears and swords. So they still had the bonus versus cavalry, just like spears had, but a little bit lower. But they were better than spears in fighting other melee infantry, but they weren't as good at it as sword infantry. So that's where the glaive infantry may be in Total War Arena. We'll see, essentially. So at tier 4 we have Polar Buku, tier 5 Qingzhou infantry, probably butchered that pronunciation, Tier 6 Black Mountain Outlaws. Tier 7 very heavy infantry. Tier 8 Central Guard. Tier 9 Pearl Dragons. And Tier 10 Protectors of Heaven. One thing I can definitely give the Chinese faction are the names are really fucking cool. Protectors of Heaven, Pearl Dragons, and from Three Kingdoms I know they have like Jaded Dragons, all kind of different colored dragons. The other thing is that all these units at tier 9 have the exactly same helmet. So I guess that will be interesting for the grind. You grind the helmet on one of the units and then you have it on all the units. But that's pretty nice. But well, let's go into the next branch in the tech tree. And that is going to be cavalry. It also goes all the way from tier 1 to tier 10. So at tier 1 we have conscript cavalry. Tier 2 cavalry militia, and ooh, it goes somewhere. Tier 3 nomad levy, which then leads you into glaive infantry. Tier 4 mounted buku. Tier 5 Xiongnu mercenaries, whatever. Tier 6, if I haven't lost my count, picked cavalry. Tier 7 Shu light cavalry. Tier 8 Xiliang cavalry. Tier 9 heavy Xiliang cavalry, and tier 10 tiger and leopard cavalry, which means I haven't lost my count. And looking at the spears, they're very weird, kind of like glaives, naginatas, but they're still classified as spear infantry. And spear cavalry, sorry. And in terms of cavalry, there's really no difference between spear and sword cavalry, which is kind of an issue that I have raised multiple times in the past in my feedback threads, which kind of have fallen onto deaf ears. The only difference in terms of cavalry is between shock cavalry and melee cavalry. Shock obviously will be worse in melee, much better at charges, but when it comes to melee cavalry, whether they wield swords or spears doesn't really matter, doesn't change the playstyle at all, which is a shame. Okay, let's get further into the tech tree and let's see what's down here. Crossbow militia. So another new type of units, crossbows. Well, my expectations are that they are going to be somewhere between archers and javelins, so higher damage than archers, but lower range, and obviously vice versa compared to javelins. Lower damage than javelins, but higher range than javelins. The only question that remains really is their firing arcs, whether they'll have low firing arcs like slingers, or will they have high firing arcs like archers. I mean, historically, right, I haven't really heard of crossbows being fired like in high trajectory, just like you can fire a bow. Obviously it is possible to just fire a crossbow like that, but nobody really did that because then it will be inaccurate as fuck. That's what I think, at least. But then again, I'm no expert on crossbows or bows or any other medieval or dark age or whatever antique weaponry, so I guess I'm not the person to ask. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments, maybe do some research, unlike I didn't, whatever. Crossbow militia is your tier 3 crossbow unit. Then at tier 4 we have crossbow buku. And ooh, what is this? I wonder what that may be. But anyway, tier 5 Tuntian crossbows. Tier 6 Black Mountain ambushers. Tier 7 Wu marksmen. Tier 8 Shu crossbows. Tier 9 heavy Shu crossbows, and tier 10 Sheshin crossbows. There we go. That is going to be quite interesting how that is going to turn out. But the most interesting thing is down here. Starts at, what is it, tier 5? 3, 4, yep, that's tier 5. So at tier 5 we have repeating crossbows. So the question of the angle of firing and damage, etc. is pretty much the same as the regular crossbows. The question remains, how are they going to solve the repeating crossbow mechanic? I imagine it would be something similar to how in World of Tanks you have tanks with a magazine, where you have, for example, 6 shells in the magazine, and the reload between those shells is like 2 seconds or something, like very short. But then once you deplete all those 6 shells, you need to load the entire magazine, and that takes like 40 seconds, for example. So something similar maybe here for crossbows. I mean, pretty expecting that to be the case. The only question remaining is the actual reload times. How short is the reload between each individual arrow, or bolt rather, within the clip, within the magazine, and then how long does it take to reload a full magazine? Well, again, we will just need to wait and see. So, repeating crossbows at tier 5, as I have said. Then we have mercenary repeating crossbows at tier 6. Armored repeating crossbows at tier 7. Repeating crossbow guard at tier 8. Shesheng repeating crossbows at tier 9. And then Zhuge crossbows at tier 10. Waver would be proud. And that's it for the Chinese tech tree, or you would think so. But there is also one thing that obviously is there as well. And that is premium units. How could I have forgotten about those, right? That's the moneymaker after all. So, at tier 3 premium unit we'll have Yuxia, which is a form of glaive infantry. For tier 3 they look really cool, I must say. At tier 4 we'll have Wu Marines, which, contrary to Yuxia, look pretty basic. And that's our repeating crossbow premium unit. The Lost Legion. So Romans have wandered off all the way to China, picked up some China-shaped shields. I mean, Chinese-style shields, rather. And now we're fighting for China somehow. Then at tier 6 we have Qin crossbows. That's a regular crossbow, not the repeating one. Tier 7 Handmaiden guards, sword infantry, and then tier 8 premium unit White Horse fellows. And now that finally concludes the Chinese tech tree preview. Let's zoom out so that you have a view of the entire tech tree. And that's it. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think, what you are guys most hyped about, and remember that this is from an early preview version of the Chinese tech tree, so changes are expected to be made, but then again, it wouldn't be much. Maybe they'll shuffle some units around, maybe they'll change how you unlock the units, like from which branch branches out to other branches, and starting tiers. We will see, basically. We will see. And until we see, please subscribe to the channel if you want to get updates about the Chinese faction and want to help me bring Total War Arena back to the West. And until then, I will see you on Arena's Battlefields, Commanders.